You gotta understand how much you've done for the tank as a whole. That's why you got supporters, man.
Baba.
You're out of the beat as recently as season 3 going.
Yo, who the f is Matt CMG?
Hey man, that's gonna be the seGREGated, man. How you doing, man? Hey man, how you doing, man? It's me. I am the Hispanic, man. How you doing, man? You know what I'm saying? Hey paisanos, it's me, Matt CMG, and today I've got something just a little bit different for you. Not really that different, but just a little bit. I don't know why I even started with that line. What made you go with that verse? As I'm sure you probably know if you clicked on this video, Fishtank is a pretty wild show, and its production value has only gotten higher as the seasons progress. So far, we have had 3 proper seasons with an additional half season, but what do we do when the show is offline? A main season is only live for 42 days, so that leaves 323 other days out of the year where they aren't putting out anything new, at least as far as live content goes. Enter the spin-offs. Ever since the end of 2.5, there have been numerous spin-offs of Fishtank, shows that take the main Fishtank premise of people locked in a house together doing crazy shit and add their own twist, often with a much lower budget. Today, we'll be going through various projects that qualify as spin-offs of Fishtank, giving a brief recap of each one, and explaining whether or not they truly live up to the Fishtank name. So smash that motherfucking like button, or I'll spin your head 360 degrees until it comes off! And let's get into it. I'm really stretching for these for these intro bits. You know what they call the Xbox 360? They call it the Xbox 360 because it makes you turn 360 degrees and walk away. So the first spinoff is actually a little hard to qualify as a spinoff, so I'm not sure if I should include it or not because it's technically part of 2.5, but I haven't actually talked about it like in a proper video before, so we're doing it anyways, fuck you. If you recall, during Bloodgames, there was a certain point where Taylor, Oddbot, and Cryokeen were placed in the cell. This didn't really last very long and was never mentioned again. However, in the aftermath of Bloodgames, the cell's camera stayed on. All of the wood chips were cleaned out, they added some furniture, and we officially began the 2.5 cell. Hello, it's me, Cell. I sound like this. I'm from Dragon's Ball P. Goku, I'm gay. This featured some familiar faces like Oddbot, Letty, and Jimmy, but they eventually added some new contestants such as Dave and Zoltar. And might I say, Dave, he might low-key be one of the GOATs, dude. He might be the GOAT. I don't know, dude, he might be the GOAT.
I'm Dave.
What are you doing here?
I don't know.
However, it wasn't just sweaty fat dudes they added to the cell, as they also introduced homeless people and crackheads with AIDS, and Sensei Scott would pop in and out every so often. But most importantly was the introduction of Claire, who actually was not there for the cell, but rather something else. By this point, production had also been teasing a new mini-season to go alongside the cell, and this ended up becoming our very first spin-off, known as Bitchtank. Bitch, hey, you're a crazy bitch. That song is so fucking bad. That might be a so bad it's good song, honestly. Now, the reason I'm including this as a spin-off, despite it being officially done by the Fishtank crew, is because it doesn't seem like they're actually planning on doing proper full edits of these like they are with the proper seasons, and as a result, it is not very well documented, so shout out to Absorb Toast for his fan-made edits. As the name and branding suggest, Bitchtank was an all-female mini-season, featuring a group of girls who were fans of the show competing in female-centric challenges. Our contestants, aka the bitches, included the aforementioned Claire, Abby, who you might remember from the mallet incident, as well as Kato, Kaylee, Jasmine, Leah, Shoddy, Juliana, and Haley. While not all of the girls were present on the first day, and some of them were added in later, it doesn't really matter because it was a more laid-back season, Bitchtank officially began on July 19th, 2024, running alongside the cell for the rest of the month. The cell and Bitchtank would cross over quite frequently, and at a certain point, they kinda became indistinguishable from each other. A lot of the girls kinda came and went, but the 3 that made immediate impressions were Claire, Shoddy, and Haley. The audience was already well acquainted with Claire because of her time in the cell, and Shoddy and Haley quickly made themselves known after they got violent with each other not even a minute after meeting. It's the Southern Belle versus the Black Queen. I'm sure there's a Confederacy joke to be made there somewhere. Like, I don't think it can be understated how badly these two hated each other. Like, it was on fucking sight for these two. It was crazy. Throughout the duration of the competition, the girls would undergo a variety of different challenges, a surprising amount of which were actually gaming-centric. There was a PS2 set up in the closet and an Xbox in the main room, and the girls would compete against each other in games like Call of Duty and Just Dance, where they danced exclusively to Doja Cat.
Day to night to morning, keeping you with the moment. I bet you
you say so. Bars. Bars. Bars, 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 bars. Shout out Doja Cat for wearing the Sam Hyde shirt. She was so real for that. To reiterate, since I believe the gaming thing kind of took us away from the main theme, the whole point of this season was that it was going to be female themed, very female centric. Everything is pink, all that shit, right? Viewers could buy their favorite bitch a rose or a glass of champagne and, you know, shit like that. Shit women like. You get the idea. The American people are tired of women. While all of this was going down, the cell was very quickly losing inhabitants. Zoltar and Dave would leave after a few days. Claire obviously moved over to Bitchtank. Letty would join production during this time. So at this point, who are we populating the cell with? Well, their answer was Greg, the freeloader from Season 2, and the cell very quickly turned into GregTank. By this point, Bitchtank was also getting freeloaders, with their first being Jacob, aka Powtank, who you might know as the Twitch streamer who got famous off of TikTok showing off his roach-infested room. I thought Asmongold was gross. He still is gross. He's actually way grosser than that. I don't know why I brought... Fuck Asmongold. That's why I brought that. Fuck you, Asmongold. You're dumb and gay. Asmongold, more like munch on chode because I'm fucking gay. Jacob and Greg got along quite nicely, and the two would make frequent appearances in the Bitchtank to mess with them. They were almost a little bit too good at this, since they made the girls a lot less interesting. Like, they mocked the fuck out of them just by doing nothing. It was pretty crazy. And I should also mention, Blicky was introduced around this time as well as another freeloader, and she brought about another level of ironic humor to the tank. Shout out to Blicky, underrated freeloader.
I think that's fucked up and disgusting, and no white person should be saying the nigga word. I would never say that.
Meanwhile, the tensions between Shoddy and Haley were rising significantly, to the point where they had to be separated at night so they didn't kill each other in their sleep. Well, I'm sure it wasn't that serious, but you get the idea. It was not like an ideal situation, right? These two clearly needed therapy. Enter Pearl Davis, aka Just Pearly Things, aka one of the biggest political grifters of all time, and that's not a compliment. I saw somebody call this bitch like a Cuban beast on Twitter before. It was fucking crazy. Anyways, Pearl would serve as the group's therapist for the next few days, interviewing them and trying to break down their psyches. I think Blicky's therapy session might be one of the most underrated moments in Fishtank history, I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty fire, it's hilarious. And speaking of breakdowns, Haley was seemingly going a bit stir-crazy, which was only kept in check by the constant love bombing from the audience. See, despite Haley not really being that popular of a contestant, production thought it would be funny to gaslight her into thinking that she had a hardcore dedicated fan base called the Haley Gang, who would constantly send her fish toys and positive TTS messages. She completely believed this and would play it up for the camera anytime she received even a modicum of positivity. It was pretty cruel, all things considered, and the finale was just the cherry on top. It came down to the final two between Shoddy and Haley. The Bitchtank has been converted into a science lab, with the girls being put through all kinds of science-themed challenges, such as being lab rats in a blind maze, among other things. Their final challenge was Fishtank's take on the Milgram experiment. If you don't know what that is, this was an experiment in which test subjects were told by the scientists to administer electric shocks to another person behind a glass window. In reality, the people behind the window were not actually hooked up to any machinery. They were simply just actors. The test subjects were told to continue increasing the voltage to the point where the actors were screaming out and pleading for their lives, with the goal of the experiment being to see how far people would truly go and compromise their morals if an authority figure told them to. In Fishtank's version, Sam Hyde was the scientist, the girls were the test subjects, and Xavier would be the one getting shocked. First up was Shoddy, who either had a conscience or realized this was a bit, and eventually stopped. Haley, on the other hand, kept going and going to the point where Xavier collapsed to the ground, with production playing it up and trying to get a medic, making her believe that she had just killed Xavier. While this was obviously a bit to the audience, she completely believed it and burst into tears. In the midst of this, Haley was declared as the winner of Bitchtank, and she celebrated this by doing the Haley Gang dance while still crying in front of Xavier's lifeless carcass. Like, she thought that she just fucking killed somebody and still, like, danced and celebrated in front of his dead body. That is fucking insane. Well, honestly, you gotta respect the dedication to attention whoring. Like she would have made a prime season 3 fish, if I'm being honest with you. And in terms of this being like a dark ending, this blows season 3 out of the water. It's insane. At the end of the day, I really enjoyed Bitchtank and The Cell, but they were a little too laid back for their own good, if you ask me. Like, on one hand, it being so laid back certainly fit the summertime vibe, especially like post Bloodgames, right? But on the other, it felt a little bit too casual when actual challenges were being imposed, so you couldn't really keep track track of who was winning and who wasn't, you know? That being said, though, I absolutely love the format. Like, in the future, I would love to see more things like Bitchtank, like, you know, like a mini season with like a very specific theme around it. Just kind of keep building up the fish tank lore a little bit, you know? Something like that.
Haley, this is Aperture. This is your last chance. You need to say the N-word with a hard R 10 times or I'm done with you.
Hey guys, I'm Steve-O. I love doing drugs and eating cum. So before we get to our next spin-off, some context. And I guess you could actually probably qualify this as a spin-off on its own, but just for context. Shortly after Bitchtank ended, Jet and production gave all former contestants, freeloaders, and even some high-profile chatters access to stream to the Fishtank site. It's like Twitch, but you're allowed to say the N-word. Fans have since dubbed this era Stream Stars, and a few characters would use it pretty consistently. Greg would co-stream his regular streams there, Oddbot was doing Radio Daisy pretty much 24/7, John was streaming with Josie for a little bit, we even got a rare appearance from Damiel playing Fortnite. It was kind of like a hub to showcase all of the former contestants and their regular non-tank content. Now, the reason that I bring this up is because one of the best users of the Stream Stars format was Jacob, who we mentioned earlier. At first, he would just do his regular Twitch streams there, but he would later utilize the site to create his own fish tank season. Powtank premiered on September 30th, 2024, with 2 camera angles of the same room. It started off with just Claire and Abby from Bitchtank, but they were later joined by a guy named Rusty. They were also joined by Letty and eventually TJ, the winner of Season 2, with later appearances from Shoddy and Creature from 2.5. It was essentially just them shooting the shit with the occasional challenge here and there. Well, I use the term challenge a bit loosely. Challenge is a bit of a misnomer. It was mostly just Jacob barging in and making them do shit, you know? There was no, like, reward. Nobody was really keeping track as far as I'm aware. You know, the point is he made amusing shit happen. They even brought in a karaoke machine for them to do karaoke, which was something that Jacob and Claire would do frequently during Bitchtank, and was honestly one of my favorite parts of it. Underrated, it's kind of a vibe. Near the end, Powtank turned into an IRL stream, with the group going out to eat with TTS being a public nuisance. They would go to an indoor trampoline gym thing, whatever the fuck you call that, and would hang out at a pool for a bit. Much like Bitchtank, it was laid-back fun for the summertime vibe. In the end, TJ was declared as the winner of Powtank, which technically makes him the first person to have won Fishtank twice. Even if this technically isn't official. It's like half official because it was on the Fishtank site, but like it had nothing to do with like, you know, Jet or production or anything like that. So it's like half official. I don't know if you want to count that. If you want to count that, count that. If you don't want to count that, then I don't care. Fuck you. From what I have been able to see based on comments on clips from Powtank, people seemed to really dislike it. You know, people saw it as boring, non-tense slop that production was only platforming in order to make money. And on one hand, that probably is true to some degree. It certainly was not the most eventful season of Fishtank out there. It was mostly just a bunch of people in a room shooting the shit with interesting things only occasionally happening, as opposed to Fishtank where interesting things were constantly happening. However, even if the consensus is that Powtank sucks, I cannot force myself to hate it. I may have only really been using it for background noise when it was still airing, but when it was entertaining, it was pretty damn entertaining. Like, dude, TJ eating a roach was fucking golden, dude. You cannot convince me that wasn't fucking Kino. And honestly, I don't think this was like a cheap cash grab or anything like that either, since Jacob seemed to be doing this out of a genuine love for the Fishtank format. Powtank may not have been particularly great, but for a first attempt, it's pretty impressive, and I completely respect the hustle.
Yo, did this nigga in a bonnet just Google what do niggas look like before walking in? I still don't believe he's black.
Moving on to the post-Season 3 era, the first spin-off was Stream Stars 2.0, which, unlike Stream Stars 1, is an actual spin-off. There's actual lore to this one. Originally advertised as the audition process for Season 4, Stream Stars 2 was essentially just the first iteration, but on crack. I'm on crack cocaine! I'm on crack cocaine, baby! Oh yeah, baby, I'm on crack cocaine, baby! I'm black, baby, I'm on crack cocaine. I'm on that shit, man. I'm on that shit all day, man. You know what I'm saying, man? You know what I'm saying? Any user on the Fishtank site with a season pass could apply to be given access to stream to the site, with the rules being that you must have your camera mounted in the corner for that classic Fishtank camera angle, and that if you are boring and aren't pulling enough viewers, you would be eliminated and your stream access would be revoked. Production would give the Stream Stars challenges to be done remotely just to keep things interesting. The finalists would supposedly be considered for Season 4, though I personally don't think that's actually true, but I guess we'll see. On one hand, this was actually a really cool way to kind of humanize the Fishtank audience. Oddbot started off as just some guy in the chat, and he ended up becoming a fan favorite freeloader, so who knows who else could fall into that role. Prominent chatters like Aperture would make an even bigger name for themselves within the community. You still had former contestants showing up and doing their thing like Oddbod, Jimmy, Creature, and Bert. Andy Dick was streaming there at some point, which is crazy, and they even got the Burger King foot lettuce guy. Well, no, not Chills, but like the actual guy who put his feet in the lettuce, which this is fucking real. This is crazy. Number 15, Fishtank Live. Eventually, Stream Stars 2 turned into Street Stars, in which contestants were told to go outside with a camera and essentially just IRL stream. I'm not entirely sure what happened here specifically, but I'm sure there was some stuff that happened. This culminated in a meetup in New York on March 23rd, 2025, in which Ben and Jet would take live auditions for Season 4. I don't know if this actually really went anywhere, but I guess we'll see. I'm pretty sure that whoever won Stream Stars, whose name is escaping me at the moment, and whoever won the quote-unquote live audition process in New York were both confirmed to be on Season 4, though again, I don't know how true this is actually gonna be. This is the gaslighting show, so how the fuck do I know anything? Stream Stars 2 was a lot like Powtank in the sense that most of the time there wasn't really anything all that interesting going on, but when crazy shit did happen, it was some of the most entertaining shit you'd see all day. Like, there were certainly some funny clips to come out of this one, no doubt. However, to get to those golden moments, you have to sit through hours and hours of these greasy, nerdy freaks who, let's face it, are the main demographic of this show, doing absolutely fuck all. Believe me, I'm a greasy, nerdy freak too, and I'm a fan of the show, so it makes sense, alright? Listen, I'm being self-deprecating, so that way I'm not being a complete dick. This is one of those things where I wasn't really watching it that intently, and would end up getting my lore secondhand through Twitter. And if my brief recap and synopsis of this has shown, that's pretty obvious that I got my lore for this from Twitter. I think the most substantial event that came out of this was when chatter Jackoff flew off of his dirt bike and broke his leg. That was pretty fucking crazy. But again, it's the kind of thing that you can't really predict. You just kind of have to sit around and wait for something interesting to happen.
Correction.
Hey Twitter world, it's me, Correction Matt CMG here. Time to make a few corrections because I'm dumb and stupid and don't know how to do research. You'd think after, as many years as I've been doing this, I'd know what I'm doing, but yeah. Now, something on Stream Stars that I feel like I should mention was that there was also an attempt at another kind of Powtank-esque fish tank spinoff called Sardine Tank. This was run by Aperture, who we mentioned earlier. He set up a bunch of cameras in a house and invited a bunch of other Stream Stars people to show up. Alex B and Mizzy from Season 3 showed up at different points. I don't know if they were there at the same time. I don't remember. I wasn't really watching it, to be honest with you. I think this is where Alex B originally talked about divorcing his wife, which is pretty crazy. So this is kind of important fish tank lore if you're following them post-tank. But, should be mentioned, Sardine Tank. It was a thing. I don't really know if there's anything notable that happened in it aside from that. But, we're gonna point it out anyways. Back to some other bullshit. Now let's move on to our next spinoff, which is actually the first one to have no official involvement with Fishtank. In February of 2025, Season 1 contestant John would begin his own Fishtank-esque show, with the premiere of American Dude Lodge. Pretty gay name, not gonna lie. Much like the other Fishtank spin-offs, ADL was essentially just a low-budget version of Fishtank. You had a bunch of contestants, they were locked in a house together, being streamed to Kick 24/7. Well, in this case, it wasn't 24/7 because John was tech illiterate, but we'll get to that shortly. The show came about after John publicized some sort of behind-the-scenes beef that he had with Jet, and wanted to prove that he could do Fishtank, but even better. Spoilers, but he did not do that. Now let's meet our contestants, Gee Willikers. Our contestants included, and I'm sorry, but I have to read this directly from the script because I cannot for the life of me remember their fucking names. Mara, Ethan, Archel, Kevin, Carl, Augustine, Midori, Sydney, and Mary Jane. And they would eventually bring in their equivalent of freeloaders, one of which was actually Shoddy, who you might remember from Bitchtank. She's been in like fucking 3 of these at this point. That's kind of, I respect the dedication. Oh hey, it's me, Correction Matt CMG, back yet again with the white vans. It should also be noted that another freeloader, quote unquote, for ADL, was Skippy Swags. He was a Stream Stars guy. He's pretty big in the fish tank community. He infiltrated ADL. I don't know exactly what his goal was, but he kind of documented the downfall a little bit. So that's interesting to see, kind of the fallout from John being a spaz. So shout out to Skippy Swags. I feel like I couldn't have done this video without mentioning him, so he's being mentioned. I'm retarded, by the way. Hey guys, retarded. One thing that is made immediately clear is that many of these contestants were chosen specifically because they were very reminiscent of former Fishtank contestants. More specifically, Fishtank contestants that John has been wronged by in the past. You know, Mara was a lot like Taylor, Ethan was a lot like Vance, and even Kevin was a lot like John himself. They were not very subtle about any of this either, since John and his production team would constantly make these comparisons outright, and would constantly name drop Fishtank specifically to take jabs at it.
Did you watch season 2 of Fishtank at all?
Very little. It fell off after season 1.
Yeah,
in
that's
my
true.
opinion.
A little bit too much interjection of the director, if you ask me. There was a girl on there who a lot of people are comparing you to.
I think I have heard this over at TTS.
You know, the whole meme on Fishtank was that, like, you know, oh, John is gay. It's a gay show. You know, that whole meme, right? But ADL? No. ADL's not a gay show. ADL is a straight show. We're a straight, wholesome Christian show where we put OnlyFans girls directly on camera. It's crazy. Much like Fishtank, viewers could send TTS and pay to fuck with the contestants. Except instead of fish toys, they were called boy toys. John is really not beating the gay allegations. As you might have guessed, this ended up being an absolute shit show as well, since not only would John deny any TTS that criticized or made fun of him, but nobody was actually willing to pay for boy toys if they weren't even guaranteed to see them. Because, as you might have guessed, John and his production team have zero concept of how technology works. You know, instead of having cameras mounted in every room like Fishtank or literally any other reality show does, John instead opted to have one of his crew members simply stream everything from an iPhone, which went about as badly as you'd expect. The audio was horrendous, the stream would cut out for hours at a time, so it wasn't really 24/7. There was zero sense of scale, and there was pretty much no way of knowing what was going on at any given time. Even the ADL digests that they were putting out were not very helpful, since they started like 2 days in, skipping all of the introductions basically, and nothing of real value was gained from them whatsoever. Like, I legitimately can't tell if these were made by John or somebody on his team, or if they were made by like a Fishtank fan who just made them ironically to shit on him. Like, I can't tell if the ineptitude is on purpose or not. It's a little unclear, but one thing that was clear is that nobody was watching ADL because they actually enjoyed it. As far as I was able to find out, because this thing is not very well documented, ADL only lasted for 22 out of the planned 27 days, with most of the original contestants still there as contestants. How are they doing eliminations again? What the fuck are they doing? The show ended early because apparently somebody on John's production team leaked Mary Jane's nudes, prompting a physical fight to go down completely off screen. At least, that's what I was able to discern based on the most recent video on John's Kick that was available at the time. I'm stupid and didn't download it, so the fuck was I thinking, but you know, whatever. Again, it's kind of hard to know for sure what exactly happened because nobody was watching this, so obviously nobody was archiving. Like, Cracker, I streamed for like 6 viewers max on a good day, and I still outperformed this shit. This is fucking crazy. I'm exaggerating a bit. John's streams were absolutely outperforming me, but nobody was watching him because they actually liked them. And you know, I think the fucked up thing is that if John had played his cards right, this might have actually been something worth watching. A clip from the show of one of the contestants snapping their ankle went viral on Twitter, and this was on like day 1. They were basically just handing John the keys to success on a silver fucking platter right there. He could have very easily capitalized on this and truly stuck it to Jet the way that he wanted to, but like I've alluded to, John is not very good with technology or social media. Despite being advertised as a Fishtank competitor, ADL completely lacked anything that makes Fishtank interesting, chief among them being entertainment value, and you obviously cannot have entertainment value if you can't even get basic fucking camera angles right. The only thing the show really had going for it was that some of the contestants seemed kind of interesting based on the very brief exposure we had to them. Honestly, I think it'd be pretty funny if Fishtank snatched some of these people up and brought them on season 4 as like freeloaders or something. That'd be pretty funny. That'd be pretty funny, but I don't think anybody would recognize them because nobody fucking watched ADL. Ultimately, American Dude Lodge was pretty much doomed from the start, since to reiterate, John is fucking retarded and has a massive ego. Two things that do not mix well. You know, he really wanted to be that, you Sam Hyde, Jason Goldstriker type figure, right? Like the wacky host type beat, right? But completely missed why that character works. Goldstriker works because he is unpredictable. Sometimes it's just Sam Hyde in costume chilling with the fish. Other times he's being a complete asshole. But regardless, he always keeps up a level of goofiness so that everybody remembers that it's all just jokes. John used his hosting duties to scream at and berate his contestants, but it never came across as having any sense of irony. He fucking comes in with a list of rules and makes everybody sit down while he reads them all aloud, seemingly to stroke his ego, whilst also completely missing that Fishtank works specifically because there are so few rules. Anyways, my point is, he tried to emulate Fishtank without understanding anything about what made Fishtank work. He seemingly thought, oh, I'm John from Fishtank, therefore this is Fishtank. It's like, no, dude, you need to put a little more effort than that. Above all, though, ADL exposed John for who he truly is. This is turning into like the John expose or whatever the fuck. I don't want it to be that, but like it's relevant. For context, during ADL, John would occasionally go live without meaning to while he talked with his production crew. They would discuss plans for the show, but more importantly, would also discuss all of the debaucherous activities they were going to get up to later. Like, dude, you cannot portray yourself as being a wholesome Christian and base your entire show around that while also paying for hookers and blow behind closed doors. Like, listen, you can pay for hookers and blow all you want, right? That's fine. Do whatever you want. But let's not pretend that you're clearly trying to hide that by portraying yourself as a man of God. A man of gosh. A man of gosh himself. Shout out to Gosh. John is one of the most insecure people from the Fishtank realm. Certified lolcow material, and fans have done an absolute 180 on him since his Season 1 days. But unlike Fishtank fans who wish for his downfall, I can only hope that John can learn from his mistakes with ADL and everything that happened regarding it, and, maybe become not a piece of shit. That's my hope. I'm gonna give you the wholesome version. Now, me personally, I think Fishtank is gay and retarded.
Tune into American Dude Lovers today. They are barebacking each other to 100 viewers daily.
American Dude Lovers. I don't fuck with John because he wants to be a pimp and he wants to get Fishtank fans to sign up for OnlyFans. So he can shoot content with them, is what he says in management. So that's disgusting to me.
And lastly, for the spin-offs, until they inevitably do like 15 fucking more after Season 4, is seGREGated, which, as the name suggests, was created by Greg. seGREGated was a week-long stream in which Greg would isolate himself on a set with basically nothing while he tried to entertain. His production crew, led by Frank Hassel and the Bunnies, would constantly find different ways to fuck with him, both with their own challenges and paid requests from the audience. The show went live on March 1st, 2025, and would continue for the next 8 days. Now, the thing that sets this apart from Fishtank is that Fishtank is a competition, it's a social game, while seGREGated was more of an endurance test. While Fishtank contestants need to be both entertaining and play the social game in order to get an edge over the others, Greg's only goal during the stream was to be as entertaining as possible for as long as possible with whatever he had on hand. It's like Survivor Man, but for streaming. Maybe without drinking your own piss. Maybe you don't have to do that part, but you get the idea. Over the course of the show, Greg would do all kinds of activities, like getting hammered and trying to fuck with his production crew, the one-ship challenge, a lot of dancing and karaoke, and of course his production crew coming in and fucking with him. I think the thing that sets this apart from how Fishtank fucked with its contestants was that the ways that they fucked with Greg were never malicious. It was tame shit like hitting him with pool noodles and tickling him and shit like that. Stuff that would mildly annoy you, but is silly enough to where Greg would be able to play along. The wholesome nature of it was honestly kind of surprising considering that Frank fucking Hassel was at the forefront of this. I think that Frank's involvement really adds a whole other layer to this, since Frank is obviously known for being a bully on Fishtank and just generally a public nuisance, so seeing him just be kind of wholesome with Greg is just kind of a really nice change of pace. Like, it was still kind of like Fishtank level crazy, but it was like in a wholesome way. You know what I mean? It's a wholesome Reddit chungus. Oh yes, I'm Reddit.com. I love Reddit.com. I am a big Reddit chungus. I love penis and cum and balls and cock and balls and my ass. I'm gay. What are we doing? Similarly to Fishtank Season 1, the stream also had donation goals, where every $1,000 would introduce a new stipulation. For example, one goal would throw him a pizza party, another summoned Bert to the stream, and the $10,000 goal promised a mystery guest. One of these ended up being a live band performing on the set, which was just chaotic enough to work. I think the stream was generally pretty good the whole time, but like, once Bert got involved, it's kind of when it really hit its stride, I think. Maybe it's just because I was just coming off of Season 3, but like, Bert might be the GOAT. Shout out to Bert. Shout out Bert. Don't try to fuck me though, Bert. I'm not gay. While seGREGated did not have a storyline the same way that a standard Fishtank season would, it was truly never boring. I mean, I wasn't watching it like that intently, but whenever I did pull it up, there was something going on that was worth watching, which is way more than can be said about some of these other spin-offs. You pull it up at 11 a.m., Greg is doing karaoke while playing Spyro the Dragon. You pull it up at 5 p.m., he is completely shaven bald. 2 hours later, you find him in fucking drag. You pull it up 1:30 midnight, Greg and Bert are getting cream pied by Frank. There were a ton of good clips to come out of this one, and there were probably more notable events in one day of seGREGated than some of these other spin-offs had in like a week. Despite being heavily inspired by Fishtank, seGREGated was really its own unique event, and I'm very glad that it was a success. I know I suck off Greg a lot in the Fishtank videos, but you know, he's a fan favorite for a reason.
What's this? Oh, are you kidding me? Stop that fuck with me!
This is worth every penny bird.
What the fuck?
Bodies are canvassed to
Oh,
with
God
pies.
damn it!
You'll be covered in pie.
So, those have been all of the major Fishtank spin-offs up until now, and after delving into them, I think we can learn a few things. I think that seGREGated and ADL are the two extremes when it comes to Fishtank spin-offs, with Powtank being like right in the middle. These are all fan-made projects made to emulate the Fishtank experience, but something like seGREGated worked and resonated with the community because not only was Greg already a fan favorite, but he was clearly doing this out of a genuine love to entertain, not to capitalize on Fishtank. Something like ADL did not work because John, as entertaining as he was on the show, was doing this out of complete spite against Fishtank. He was trying to be a direct Fishtank competitor, and obviously was trying to stick it to Jet for some unseen wrong that he did. It was a complete spite move, and on top of that was just a complete technological shit show. Like, I know I already bitched about this, but like, dude, you cannot do a 24-hour live show from a fucking iPhone that still has the gyro unlocked. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Powtank is directly in the middle, because while it wasn't as technologically eloquent as Fishtank, and it wasn't always that entertaining, it did come from a genuine desire to entertain. And honestly, I think that's what separates the Fishtank legends from the Fishtank lolcows. The fan favorites are always the ones who are genuinely themselves both on and off the show, while the ones who try to immediately capitalize on their newfound fame are almost always destined to fail. Fish like Bert, Jimmy, Shinji, and Josie, and freeloaders like Greg, Job, and Ty are all fan favorites because they are genuine people who were simply just being themselves, and the fame just gravitated toward them. Meanwhile, people like John, Morrow, and Alex B are hated post-Tank because they saw their fame as an immediate money-making opportunity. At the end of the day, Fishtank is a show all about authenticity, so it stands to reason that the most successful projects to spawn from it came from the most authentic people. Got a little bit gay and wholesome at the end there. Here's a fucking edgy meme with fucking edginess and fucking skeletons to fucking to balance out the mood a little bit. Sexual style. As Bert would say. But that is all for the Fishtank spin-offs. At least for now, because I'm sure the second I stop recording, they're going to fucking announce 15 more. But, you know, next time I talk about Fishtank, it'll probably be the Bloodgames 2 recap. So if you want to see that, make sure you hit the subski, baby. Hit the subski. Let me know what your favorite Fishtank spinoff is in the comments below. Like the video, sub to the channel, hit the page if you want to see uncensored feet. I have been Matt CMG, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Who's retarded? Got you.
The apocalypse. Alright guys, come here, let's all group up. No, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Let's get some pussy tonight.